All right, picture this. You're wandering through a market in Beirut. You know, the air is full of spices, people are talking. It's kind of a scene.
Oh, it's incredible.
But the thing is, the Arabic you hear there, it's not exactly what you'd find in a textbook.
It's true, yeah.
And that's because you, my friend, have stumbled upon Levantine Arabic. Have you ever heard of this?
I love this. It's like you almost discover a hidden language.
Right.
Yeah, because when most people think Arabic, they think modern standard Arabic.
The formal stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the news, all that. And I mean, listen, modern standard Arabic is important, but Levantine, this is how millions of people actually speak.
Yeah.
You know, every day in the Levant.
It's the real deal.
Yeah.
It's how you'd haggle for, like, spices in that market we talked about, or how you'd chat over coffee with friends, even online.
That's right. It's the language of life.
It's amazing. And you know I'm all about this, so that's what we're diving into today. This part of the Arabic family that most folks don't even know about.
It's often overlooked, so we're going to look at the history, the quirks.
Ooh, we're going to get into some grammar too, aren't we?
A little grammar, but we'll keep it light, I promise.
Okay, good, because that's the part I always mess up.
We'll make it painless.
All right, deal. So, to understand all this, we got to talk about diglossia. Is that how you even say it?
Diglossia, yeah.
Sounds intimidating.
It's not as bad as it sounds. Think of it like Europe a while back. You had Latin, right, for scholars and priests, but then you had Italian, Spanish, French, all those evolving at the same time.
So it's like you've got the fancy occasion language and then the everyday language.
Precisely. Modern Standard Arabic, that's your tux.
Mm-hmm.
Levantine Arabic, that's your jeans and t-shirt. Comfy, perfect for the market, or just hanging out.
Okay, that makes way more sense now. But here's where my brain goes next. Levantine Arabic, it's not just one thing, is it? It's kind of like an umbrella term.
You got it. It's like saying Romance languages, right?
Right.
You got Spanish, French, Italian. Each one's got its own character.
Right. So within Levantine, we've got...
Within Levantine, you have a whole bunch of different dialects.
Oh, wow. So this is even more complex than I thought.
It's true. And they're all shaped by history, by culture, even geography.
So all these different dialects within Levantine, that's wild. What causes that? Is it just where you're from, or is there more to it?
You know, it's a whole mix. Location's a big one, for sure. Someone from Beirut, they might say things a little differently than someone from Damascus, even though they're both speaking, you know, Levantine.
Right, like how some people say soda and some say pop here.
Exactly. And then you've got religion, too. Like Christians in the Levant might use certain words that came from Syriac, and you wouldn't hear those as much from, say, Muslim communities.
Wow, so it gets really specific.
It does. It really reflects all these microcultures within the bigger picture.
That's so cool, all those little influences.
And here's something even cooler, honestly, Levantine Arabic. It still has these echoes of super old languages.
Linguistic fossils. I'm into it. Tell me more.
Aramaic is a big one. It was like the main language of that whole area centuries ago, and it left its mark. Like, did you know the word for hello, marhaba? It comes from the Aramaic word for Lord.
No way, seriously. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it's not just Aramaic, you also have Turkish words, even some European words sprinkled in there.
Right, because of the Ottomans and then...
Exactly. The Ottomans, the French, all these historical empires, they left their linguistic fingerprints all over Levantine Arabic.
So it's really this tapestry of like cultures and time periods all woven together.
I love that analogy. It's so true. But speaking of weaving things together, there's this kind of interesting contradiction when it comes to Levantine Arabic.
What's that?
We talk about how many people speak it, right? It's everywhere. But then
you rarely ever see it written down, right? Like, why aren't there novels in Levantine Arabic if so many people speak it?
That is the million-dollar question. See, for the longest time, there was this unwritten rule. Modern Standard Arabic, that's for writing. Levantine Arabic, that's for talking. End of story.
Like a hierarchy almost.
Yeah, kinda. Modern Standard Arabic, that was the prestigious one, the official one. Levantine, it was seen as informal, almost, a little bit taboo to write it down. And that meant, of course, a standardized writing system. It just never really developed.
So all those stories, all those everyday conversations, they were passed down orally, generation to generation.
Exactly. Like, think about how much richness there is in the oral tradition. But then comes the internet.
And everything changes.
Totally. Because now people had this new informal way to communicate in writing. And guess what they wanted to use?
The language they used every day.
Of course. So a Levantine just exploded online. But there was no established way to write it.
Right. So what did people do?
They got creative. Arabic alphabet, Latin alphabet, even Hebrew sometimes. You name it, they used it.
Whatever worked, huh?
Exactly. And that's how you get things like Arabizi. Ever heard of that?
Vaguely, but remind me.
So it's this mix of Arabic and English and numbers kind of all jumbled together. It's wild, but it works. It shows how adaptable people are, how language can evolve, even without, official rules.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, actually. But now that we have all this Levantine online, has that changed the standardization debate at all?
Oh, for sure. There are strong opinions on both sides. Some folks, they think formalizing Levantine, giving it a real writing system, is super important.
So it can be taken seriously academically?
Exactly. It's about preserving the culture, giving the language the recognition it deserves, all of that.
Right, because otherwise it's almost like it's not a real language, even though millions speak it.
Exactly. But then on the flip side, some people think if you formalize Levantine too much, it could actually hurt the unity of the Arab world because right now, modern Standard Arabic is kind of that shared language.
So it's tied to identity, to politics. It's really fascinating.
It is. It shows how language is about so much more than just words. It's about belonging and culture and all these bigger issues. But no matter what happens with that debate, one thing's for sure, the internet has given Levantine Arabic a whole new lease on life.
That's a perfect way to put it. And speaking of new life, I think it's time we tackle a little grammar. But don't worry, we'll keep it fun, I promise. Okay, so grammar time. Levantine Arabic, it doesn't always follow the rules, does it? When you compare it to, modern Standard Arabic, it's got its own thing going on.
It definitely takes some liberties. One of the biggest differences you'll notice is just how it puts sentences together. Modern Standard Arabic, a lot of times it likes to lead with the verb, but Levantine Arabic, it's more like English subject, verb, object, the way we're used to.
So instead of like, ate the cake, I did, it's I ate the kid.
Exactly. It seems small, but it changes the whole flow.
It does. And speaking of things that change the flow, there's this whole thing with Levantine Arabic and the verb to have, or should I say the lack of it.
Ah, yes. The classic head scratcher for anyone trying to learn it. Levantine Arabic, it doesn't really have a verb for to have. They use prepositions instead, like, with or at, to show possession.
So instead of I have a cat, it's more like the cat is with me.
You got it. It sounds strange at first, but then your brain just sort of adapts. To say I have a book, it's al-kitab mai, which translates to the book is with me.
It's like a whole different logic, but it makes sense in its own way.
It does, doesn't it? It shows you how flexible language can be. There's not just one right way to express something.
Totally. And sometimes that leads to some pretty funny translations, right? Didn't we talk about that one phrase for agreement?
Oh, you mean where they say on my head instead of
Right.
you got it or absolutely?
Yes. It's hilarious. Imagine being like, want to meet at 7, on my head. It cracks me up every time.
There's a certain charm to it. It makes you wonder how those expressions even come about. But that's part of what we love about languages, right?
Yeah.
They give you a glimpse into how different cultures see the world.
And with Levantine Arabic, it's a world full of warmth and humor and this incredible ability to just like play with language. But as much as we love diving into this stuff, we also have to think about how to preserve it, right? Especially in this digital age we live in.
It's a great point. Levantine Arabic, so much of it has been passed down through spoken word, through generations. How do we capture that, all those nuances, those everyday sayings, and make sure they aren't lost?
It's a huge task, but it feels important.
It is, because it's about more than just words. It's about preserving a culture, a way of life. And that's something worth fighting for.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Have you come across any Levantine phrases, those little sayings that just stick with you? Head over to our social media. Let's keep this conversation going. And if today's deep dive has made you curious to learn more about this amazing corner of the Arabic-speaking world, don't worry, we've got you covered. We'll have links and resources in the show notes. Until next time, stay curious.